In your life, you've probably made some decisions that you regret. But have you ever made a decision so bad that it bankrupts your record label and ends your music career entirely? In 2002, Victoria Beckham signed to Telstar Records for a reported £1.5 million. A large number by any measure, and an insane amount for a record label of their size. For the investment, clearly Telstar were hoping to bag a superstar and ride the hits train to the bank. What Telstar could not have imagined is that Victoria would also strike a deal with Jay-Z's record label Rockefeller and have their head produce an album for Victoria Beckham. Victoria Beckham went hip-hop. Once again, I've had to do some proper digging to get to the bottom of this story, and I'm going to do my best to clear up the misreporting and misinformation and put all of this into context. Let me tell you guys, you are in for a ride with this episode. What was going on in those 2 years? How did Victoria Beckham sign to Rockefeller? But most importantly, is that music any good? So join me as we dig into Vicky's lost albums and observe the strange remnants from this bygone era of 2004. Because this is the story of the time Victoria Beckham went hip-hop and bankrupted a record label. Because in the history of popular music, there is an established canon. Great records and known legends. That's fine, but we can do better. Let me take you to a world of boots and also legs. I'll be telling the stories of the fake and the leaked, exploring stolen tapes and lost recordings. It's a moral dark zone, but in it are some of music's most fascinating stories. And today's story is about Victoria Beckham. It's a story that spans continents and genres. This is Victoria Beckham's hip-hop hijinks.
Why don't you give up singing? No, hold on. I didn't mean that to sound as rude as you did. Do you know what I mean?
No,
here?
I know exactly what you mean.
You get so much flack for it, and it's like, you know, and the record's fine, it's nice. It's not my cup of tea, but it's nice, it's good. But I know if you gave up singing and gave it a year or two, whatever you came back with, people would treat it in a totally different way. And you must be aware of this.
Jonathan Ross was saying what all of the newspapers were implying. Victoria Beckham couldn't sing and her solo career was a failure. But let's survey the scene for a moment. In 2002, she was still a few years away from launching her successful Victoria Beckham fashion line. She'd taken the longest of any Spice Girl to put out a solo album. And while she had dabbled in fashion and TV, she was still at this point a pop star. And she was one with hits. Hits were not guaranteed for the Spice Girls at this point, as their disastrous third album had proved. And Victoria did have hits. The problem is her biggest hit wasn't her song, she was just doing vocals for somebody else.
Telling me I've gone too far. You must be out of your mind.
Do you guys think they ever watched The Matrix? Her debut record, while producing songs that entered the top 10, was widely considered a flop. To put it bluntly, her celebrity was undeniable, but her music career was in question. Literally. By Jonathan Ross.
Because you do get knocked for your music all the time, and you've got a nice enough voice, but it's not one of those voices like a Beyonce where people go, wow, is it?
Things would get worse for Victoria in June of 2002 when her record label, Virgin, dropped her. Reportedly, her album had only sold enough to make back half of what it cost to produce. The press was smelling blood in the water. Victoria Beckham's time may be coming to a close. But Victoria was determined that she could turn her flagging career around, and she knew what she needed to do. Firstly, she needed a new record label to help fund her new album and to put it out. By November, she had found a label in Telstar Records. Telstar had made a big bet with Victoria, spending £1.5 million, which is a lot for the size and caliber that they were. I'd wager that you hadn't heard of Telstar Records before. Well, neither had I, but apparently they've put out records by such titans as television duo Ant and Dec, footballer turned actor Vinnie Jones, and they'd had a novelty number 2 hit with the Cheeky Girls' Cheeky song, parentheses touch my bum. I just know somebody in the comments is going to be pissed that I called the Cheeky Girls a novelty act, but let's be fucking serious here. Victoria's deal with Telstar could have worked out nicely for her. She got some capital to make a new record, and she got to be a big fish in a small pond. Telstar, meanwhile, get a proven hitmaker and someone who still had gravity in pop culture. It's just unfortunate then that she had the most misguided idea of her entire life.
Can we put him in more of a hip-hop context?
This seems like it might be disastrous, but Victoria did have some savvy and she knew what her strengths were. She knew she was fashionable, she knew she was glamorous, she was recognized as a trendsetter in women's fashion. And she could trade on this if she could only find someone who was buying. In 2002, the United States of America was still recovering from an event that happened on September 11th of 2001 that permanently changed their nation. I am of course talking about Jay-Z's classic 6th album, The Blueprint.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 8th wonder of the world.
That album went gold on its first week, held a #1 spot on the chart for 3 weeks straight, and has since gone triple platinum. It was a juggernaut. It was a money machine. The album was so massive that it couldn't even be stopped by Bin Laden, and I'm quoting Jay-Z directly there. And Jay-Z was the co-founder of his own label, Rockefeller, which he had founded with his longtime business partner Damon Dash, who's going to be important in our story. Rockefeller was still a majority, independently owned company at this time, so the money was going straight to the owners, Jay-Z and Damon Dash. And Damon Dash was actually the head of the company, and he had been using the money to branch out the Rockefeller brand. Firstly, there was the films he was producing, such as 2002's Paid in Full.
Come on, Ace. How many times I gotta tell you about this boobity-boop shit playing in the store?
And secondly, and more pertinently, he had recently launched the Rockaware clothing line, and he wanted to sell some goddamn clothes. So, he was looking for someone with some musical clout who was respected for their fashion sense to tacitly co-sign the brand by wearing their garms. And you, dear viewer, can see where this is going. It was entirely mutually beneficial. Victoria Beckham would wear the Rockefeller clothes and promote the brand, and in return Damon Dash would produce a hip-hop album for her, rebranding Victoria Beckham as cool and urban. In theory, this almost makes sense. The only problem was the execution, and oh brother, was the execution bad.
It's beautiful. Victoria Beckham, featuring MOP.
This is the first thing that you can buy from these sessions. It was a promotional single that they sent out to DJs to test the waters. Victoria Beckham, featuring MOP. It's that simple. Just the fact that this exists is so strange to me. Like, this is a physical product that someone had to pay to get manufactured. But enough dilly-dallying. I know you want to hear the record, so.
That's right, boys and girls, it's vinyl rip time. Okay, sorry, Sufyan. You're too good for this video. You have to go.
The version labelled here as Last Verse is the version that we're interested in, because this has MOP only doing a guest verse at the end and the rest is Victoria. The full verse is MOP song featuring Victoria in the background. I don't think anyone's ripped this, so I've uploaded it to my second channel for you to check out if you want. A version of It's That Simple actually appears on MOP's album Mash Out Posse, which is their worst reviewed album. No sign of Victoria Beckham on this one though. So let's listen to the version which actually has Victoria Beckham singing.
You're not the only one knocking down my door. It's that simple that we had this conversation before. It's that simple. If you want me, let me know. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Now you may be asking yourself, what the fuck is this? And I would say, good question. That beat is trash, and no amount of whoops and hollerings can hide just how repetitive it is. That beat sucks.
We had this conversation before. It's that simple. Have to talk to you about this no more. It's that simple.
And those "it's that simple" refrains get grating quick.
It's that simple.
I mentioned the beat first because you will get sick of that beat, and I'm sorry. But let's actually engage with what Victoria's singing here. You know, what's this song about? This is her reinvention, so let's see how she's reinventing herself.
Wanna make this really clear, won't be saying this no more. Better tell me how you feel, or you can walk right out the door. Yes, I'm tired of playing games with you, I've had it up to here. Baby, just be real with me, or you can disappear. It's like
Okay, very simple. She's singing to a man in the second person, to a you. And I suppose you could say that she's looking for this person to commit, to say you'll be there, if you will. But Victoria is pushing the urban, remember? She's not just a Spice Girl anymore. She's an urban Spice Girl. So check out the notably black flavor on this line.
you're not the only one knocking down my door. It's that
Nobody is knocking down your door, Victoria. I know that you're not fucking with the notorious B.I.G., especially when it's known that you live with your footballer husband in an actual mansion that you call Buckingham Palace.
I mean, it's really funny because we sit at home in Buckingham Palace like you do.
But as I mentioned before, Victoria isn't alone on this song. She has a guest verse from MOP. Damon Dash must have been really pulling the strings to bolster her credibility here. So let's take a listen to that. And the questions on my mind are, can MOP improve her cred? And what can they add to the song in terms of the theme of asking a man you like to commit to a relationship? Now, in the name of transparency here, the original record has the guest verse censored, but luckily the uncensored verse has leaked online, so I'm going to play you the uncensored one.
boy, you're not the only one who says he wants to be with me. Let me simplify it for you. You know I'll be riding with you, but I need to know just how you feel. It's that simple.
It's that simple. If you gonna what else you get gun the fuck down.
That simple.
So if you coming, nigga, then come the fuck now. Come on, nigga, come the fuck now. Come on, put the gun the fuck down. It's that simple.
They did it, boys. They gave Victoria Beckham cred. Be honest, were you ready for that? I know you weren't ready for that. I wasn't ready for that, and I knew what was coming. You know what it reminds me of?
Never use a messy recipe. The cake will end up crazy. If you do the cooking by the book, then you'll have
Break it down, bitch. Let me see you back it up. Shut that ass down, load it, pick that motherfucker up.
If I had to guess, I'm pretty sure that they were going for like a Mariah Carey featuring ODB sort of thing here, because people like that song. Hell, Pitchfork even said it was the single best song of the entire 1990s.
I don't know about that.
But here's the thing, right? Mariah Carey can actually fucking sing. And the beat is good. It doesn't have this weird fucking bleating donkey sound effect.
Feel with me, or you can disappear. It's like
The shocking thing that I want to reiterate, right? They pressed this to vinyl. They sent this out. This was, like, not for purchase, but it was a real release. Why?
if you want me, let me know. It's
It beggars belief that anyone thought this sounded good. From the atrocious beat to the weak melody and annoying hook. With the put-on urban flavour and impersonal lyrics, she has somehow created a song in which she is less authentic than she was on the Spice Girls' debut album 8 years prior. Because at least back then, it was believable when she talked about sending a man to the door. But this was just a promo single. They've got some feedback, and surely whatever Damon Dash and Victoria cooked up next would be better. Right?
I don't know about that.
As every hip-hop Henry and rapping Ryan knows, the best hip-hop is on the mixtapes. So it made sense for Rockefeller to put Victoria Beckham on a mixtape. Dame Dash, The Warriors Mixtape, Part 3, featuring a very special Warrior Spice. I know I might be repeating myself here, but it is so strange to me to see Victoria Beckham's name right next to like Kanye West and Memphis Bleak. She clearly doesn't fit in. Looking at the track listing, we can see there's It's That Simple again. This is the MOP version. They're really minimizing the Victoria. But there's a new Victoria Beckham song called Come Together. Supposedly, the album was going to be called Come Together as well. And, get this, it samples the Beatles' Come Together. So let's come together and listen to Come Together off Come Together. Sampling Come Together, together. I hope it's good. Where do you even fucking begin talking about this? I don't know which is worse, the lazy fucking sample or the fact that Victoria Beckham is doing the shimmy shimmy Cocoa Pops hip hop flow.
I'm the kind of girl who knows what she wants, but are you the kind of guy that can give me what I want?
And she's just fucking singing about telling a man that she wants to be fulfilled from him. Like, this is the shit she already covered on the Spice Girls album. This isn't a reinvention. What are you doing?
Let's get together, stay together, make just for the night, forever seems crazy. Can do whatever, let's just come together, baby.
If you're gonna be using a wholesale sample like that, from a song as great as Come Together, from a band as legendary as the Beatles, you've got to be bringing better material than this.
Let's get together, stay together, make just for the night, forever seems crazy.
Do you want to stay together, maybe? Or do you want it to be just one night forever seems crazy? I know they rhyme, but you have to pick one. There's the full-length version of this song that was meant to be on the album, and there's this long instrumental pause where there was clearly meant to be a guest hip-hop verse, but no one wanted to jump on the beat, and so it's just empty in every leaked version of this song. This unfinished state is even more obvious on the mixtape, because instead of just letting it play unfinished, they cut the song short after 1 minute really abruptly.
The night forever seems crazy. We can do whatever, let's just come together, baby.
I also love that it cuts straight into another hard MOP banger. It's great. And while we're talking about this mixtape, I want to mention Damon Dash's intro at the start, because this is baffling.
Get 'em, girl.
Hold on a second, you bum ass nigga. Let me say one thing. I mean, I know y'all been hearing I'm working with Victoria Beckham, aka Posh Spice. I know y'all thinking this shit doesn't really make sense. How is he gonna turn a pop star to a real rock star? And also I hear a lot of people saying you're gonna get her to rap and all kind of other dumb shit like that. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not gonna happen. And don't ever worry about me doing something. No matter what I do, it's gonna be hot. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give you a little taste. Pause. A little sample what Dame Dash is working with. Holla back, Victoria.
I have never heard anything like this. He's introducing the song on the mixtape by explaining how the direction is good. Anything I do is going to be hot, he says. If you have to say it, it's not true. It reeks of insecurity. And speaking of spoken word, this got me thinking, like, what are Damon Dash's musical credentials? He was primarily a money man, right? These days he shows up on these CEO mindset type podcasts and talks about making money move. But what I want to know is, does he have any actual musical experience?
Well, once again, I've got the source. Damon Dash, his name's in big, with a litany of featuring artists. And the song is simply called Champions. Well, I certainly hope it is a champion song.
According to Discogs, this is Damon Dash's only single where he is the main featured artist. Speaking of Discogs, the listing here was incorrect. It didn't mention that both sides had an instrumental after the main song, so I took the time to update it. This is a tangent, but remember, the internet is getting shitter, but you can do your part to make it better. But let's listen to Damon Dash's Champions.
Time after time.
Sup, y'all?
Sup?
My sentence.
Yo, this is Dame Dash, the CEO.
Hello, Dame Dash, the CEO.
Here to welcome y'all to the Dream Team.
Thank you, it's an honor to be here. Now, let's see what you've got.
What y'all niggas thought I was gonna rap? Never.
Y'all thought I was gonna rap? Yes, I did actually. But silly me, I won't make that mistake again. I get it, you're just a producer. Hold on, that was clearly a Kanye beat. What the fuck does Damon Dash do? Like, he's listed on those Jay-Z records, but he's an executive producer. He didn't actually produce the record. Here's a list of everyone who actually produced Reasonable Doubt. It's not Damon Dash. You know, it's fine to be a CEO or an ideas guy. I don't care if you've got a big personality in the business. I'm a fan of Alan McGee. But Alan McGee didn't produce records for his talent. Why is Damon Dash producing an album for Victoria Beckham? And I imagine that this is exactly what Victoria's manager thought when he re-entered the picture. In July of 2003, 10 months after signing to Telstar, Victoria approaches Simon Fuller and signs him to be her manager. She wanted someone with smarts, someone she could trust, someone who knew how to market her. Simon Fuller was perfect. Who was better to take her back to the glorious heights of the Spice Girls days than the man who had taken the Spice Girls to glorious heights? Emma Bunton, another former Spice Girl, had already gone back to Simon Fuller, and he had assigned her to his own record label, 19 Recordings. If Victoria had approached Simon before negotiating her own record deal, it's likely that he would have signed her to 19 Recordings as well. But she didn't, so she still owed Telstar a record, plus whatever deal she'd struck with Rockefeller. Immediately after re-signing Simon Fuller as her manager, he intuited that hip-hop was the wrong direction. I've also read that Telstar was starting to get nervous too, because they knew that selling Victoria Beckham as hard in the UK would be a tall order. And also, they were probably hearing the early mixes coming out of these sessions. So Telstar and Simon together put the pressure on Victoria to keep her options open and maybe work on some more pop material at the same time.
And that's how we end up with not one, but two unreleased Victoria Beckham albums. come together for hip hop and open your eyes for electropop.
Oh, gee, Vicky, how come your record label lets you make 2 albums? So there's internal conflict in Camp Beckham, because despite the fact her record label and Simon Fuller don't like it, Victoria was still sold on the hip-hop angle. So Simon Fuller does what he does best, and he turns the situation into a pop culture event. Simon Fuller is on record as saying if he had still been managing the Spice Girls when Jerry left, he'd have become the next Spice Girl into a big competition and got little girls all over the world applying to be the new 5th Spice Girl, thus boosting the Spice Girls' popularity again. And he basically did the same trick here to resolve the dispute. Can't decide which direction to go? Let's put it to the public. He picked a single from the hip-hop album, and he picked a single from the electropop album, and he struck a deal with Top of the Pops. Both songs would debut live, and viewers would vote now to choose which one would become the A-side. I didn't even know you could strike a deal with Top of the Pops. Did you catch that? They premiered it as a future hit. This man's a genius. This man is a genius. I'm gonna come out and say it. I like this fucking song. The chorus is a little weak, but that production and beat helps a lot. With all of the Spice Girls, I really don't know why it took so long for any of them to try the disco electro-pop thing that like Kylie Minogue was doing, that Madonna was starting to do around this time. And Victoria's giving it a good old shake here. That's just a great pre-chorus. That's catchy. I'd go so far as to say this is probably Victoria Beckham's best song as a solo artist. Anyway, this one lost. Okay, whatever Damon Dash did for this song, he's brought a better beat than those other two. So that's a good start. And also, I hear you, Victoria, with those saucy phone sex lines. In fact, this whole song is phone sex themed.
You see, I made the decision to give you a call, 'cause sex is written in the scribble writings on the wall. I've been going crazy sitting in my room, fantasizing about you has never felt so good.
This is a song about being alone in your room and being so horny that you're losing your mind. I can get behind this.
There's no limit, baby girl, you can have. Get what you want, take what you say. I'm giving you what you need, whatever you want. Just don't disturb this.
And it's got a strong chorus. This is great. There's just one thing that really bugs me about this song, and I can't get over it. And I feel like I'm being so pedantic about this. If this song's about calling up your lover on the telephone, why is she saying, like, keep your eyes on me and take what you see? This is over the phone. He can't see shit. He's probably looking at his bedroom wall too. And like I said, I know this is pedantic, but it ruins the whole song for me. I can't get over it. And it's a shame too, because like the rest of this song is good. Surprisingly good given the pedigree it came from, but good.
Keep your eyes on me.
There's a sign upon the door. Saying don't disturb this groove.
There's no limit, baby, where you can have what I got. Get what you want, take what you see. I'm giving you what you need, whatever you want. Just don't disturb this groove.
I don't fault the UK public for voting this song over the other. They probably don't get caught up on small details like I do. But in the end, there's only one winner. And that winner is Simon Fuller, because he put both songs out as a double single anyway, and it was Victoria Beckham's best performing single. He's such a fucking genius, man. Oh my god. So, Victoria Beckham should be in prime position here. She's been going through a troubled production, but is coming out right on top. And it's at this point that money problems start to crop up. See, Damon Dash had been charging $10,000 per track that he produced, and the record label had only paid for 3 of them. And $10,000 per track is really not that much, especially considering, like, they signed her for $1.5 million, but the payments just weren't going through. On top of the $1.5 million signing fee, they'd also paid for the cost of 2 albums worth of recording studio, session, production, and neither of those had actually come out. And then, even though that single had done well, they had to give Simon Fuller a cut because it was co-released with his record label. I don't know what deal they had there, but Simon will have taken a cut. So whatever money was coming in, it just wasn't meeting the expenses. Victoria was actually gearing up to release another single from the electropop album called Mine for Real, but the record label folded before that came out. The aforementioned cheeky girls have blamed Victoria Beckham entirely for Telstar going bust. And to this day, This Groove / Let Your Head Go is the last single or album Victoria Beckham ever released. But some songs from those ill-fated sessions did make their way out in an unexpected place.
You might think that that says the real Beckhams, all here and all real. But it doesn't. It says the Real Beckhams, because David Beckham played for Real Madrid. Now, this is a TV special of reality TV following them around, and I don't care. What I do care about is in the extras for the DVD, we have a bunch of unreleased music.
Let's go. Get in. More Victoria.
This will go nicely on my shelf right there, next to my Spice Girls VHS tapes and Jerry Halliwell yoga DVDs. And don't worry, I've still got the Emma Bunton Pepsi can too.
There are 4 new songs presented on the Real Beckhams. Most of them are kind of tuneless affairs like we were hearing earlier in the video.
Insecure and you keep trying to control your life. Tied up and you're scared somebody gon' come along and treat you right.
But there's something new creeping into these selections of songs that makes them much more interesting than the frivolous shit we were just talking about.
No, that's what I think, 'cause it's already taken. I don't give a damn what kind of plans you're making. Even if the player says he's got it all shaken, bottom line is he's still taken. So that's what I think.
You see, something else happened in 2004 that radically affected the way the public perceived Victoria Beckham.
When I exposed David Beckham's extramarital affair, we decided there was huge public interest in that matter. They were openly presenting themselves as a very happy, married, a very close-knit family, and were making millions of pounds on the back of that image, promoting themselves as a fairy tale marriage. I mean, they even got married on thrones. And we thought it was important that we exposed that the fairy tale was a sham. And therefore, we decided there was huge public interest in that kiss and tell.
In 2004, David Beckham had an alleged affair with Rebecca Lewis. This was a big news story in the UK, and Rebecca Lewis got quite a lot of publicity out of it. and it had a dramatic effect on Victoria's public image. Luckily, Victoria and David both had Simon Fuller working to save their public image. The Ray Isle Beckhams comes out after this, and the songs take on a very dark, much more serious tone in light of the affair.
I wish I could believe you, then I'd be alright. But now everything you told me really don't apply to the way I feel inside. Loving you was easy once upon a time, but now my suspicions of you have multiplied.
This is the most honest and raw that Victoria Beckham has ever been. And this song never got, really released, which is a shame.
I just can't seem to get over the way you hurt me. Don't know why you gave another who didn't mean a thing. No, everything you gave to me.
This song is genuinely heartbreaking, and it sounds like an excerpt out of her diary. Before I was criticizing her for not being real, she sounds totally real and honest on this track.
I don't remember feeling like I was no good, like I couldn't do it for you, like your mistress couldn't.
You may have heard this song before because Beyoncé covered it for her second album. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually think the Victoria Beckham version is better. Just because it's so real, you know that she's writing those lyrics and meaning it. And it goes back to that Jonathan Ross interview at the start of this video. Yeah, Victoria didn't have a better voice than Beyoncé, but I think if she'd been smarter about how she positioned herself, she could have been a good artist. But unfortunately, she chose to go hip-hop. And I know that you're wondering, what else is on those CDs? I've structured this video so that we talked about everything that actually came out first, because I think that's fair and honest, and that's what's most important. But you want to hear the unreleased shit, so let's take a look. One of the weirdest things about these bootlegs is that basically all of the unreleased tracks are better than the two that they put out as singles. That's not to say that they're great or even really that good, but they're noticeably better than It's That Simple and Come Together. It really makes me wonder why they chose those two songs as the early promotion.
I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna take it back. Finally I got what I need. Can't you see what you do to me? I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna take it back.
This track, I'll Take You There, has a serviceable beat and lyrics about how she's so in love with her new husband that she doesn't even miss her old friends, presumably the Spice Girls.
All my friends, they keep asking me when will I come around, hang around and chill with them again. But I don't have no answers for them because you got me up in the clouds. I can't do that, baby.
This is another example of Victoria Beckham's music being better when she's more honest in the lyrics. And I think if the production had been finished, this track could have been something, but it's pretty clearly unfinished. The track Spell on Me sees Victoria alone in her room, desperately horny, and losing her mind so that she picks up the telephone to ring her lover.
I was all alone in my room. Time on the clock said 2:15. Thoughts in my head about me and you. Picked up the phone, asked you to come through. Phone kept ringing, the machine came on. Left you a message, but I'm still turned on.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great subject matter for a song, but I think it's a trick that only works once. But I will say in her defense, she's even hornier on this one.
Nothing left to do now that you're gone. I think I'm going crazy. Need myself and now I'm feeling hot. My heart beating with the bass and non-stop. I tried to control it, but my body couldn't hold it.
I think this song would work if someone else covered it. You know, a big gospel choir behind them and a voice that can really belt it out. I think there is something to this song, but in its current package, not quite working. The track So Cold, meanwhile, is just the right amount of annoying that I think it could have been a hit.
Just one of those days, people around enjoy the sun while it's shining, living their lives, having their fun, all the while inside I'm dying.
Can I make it any more obvious?
I know that you won't show, still I sit here waiting for you. Are you ever coming back this way? I can't take it another day.
I want to express that I don't like this song, but I just understand that, like, around this time Daniel Powter's Bad Day was charting. If we move over to the electropop album, there's some pretty fun stuff.
Yes, hello. I was wondering if you could play that song again.
Which one, man?
The one that goes...
When I first heard this, I really thought she was doing a rip-off of Destination Unknown, but that song wouldn't come out until 2006, so you get it, Victoria. Woo! By far the most intriguing track from all of her unreleased stuff is a song off the electropop album called Full Stop, which is sometimes credited as featuring Nas.
Yeah. Cruise control, baby. I'm saying?
Taking the song at face value, it's an interesting synthesis of both her hip-hop influence and her electropop influence.
I wanna drive too fast. I wanna play full blast. I wanna dance till I drop. I wanna rock full style. I wanna roll too high. I wanna ride or die. I wanna live a life hot now. I wanna rock full style.
But that's not what really interests me about this song. What really interests me is the fact that no one can decide if it's really Nas or not. The YouTube comments are full of debate, and I asked a few friends, including some Nas superfans, and I was getting completely mixed responses too. Take a listen.
I wanna drive at 105 in the Lex ride and overtake haters who ride in the X5. I wanna play music so loud, right? A whole crowd will hold their ears and go, I wanna dance till I drop, or docs tell me stop or die to the sounds of rock and hip hop. Real with Godson across the belly, the boss of rap. You saw me in belly with thoughts like that.
I mean, it kinda sounds like him, but I really can't tell. But if it is Nas, that's fascinating, because this would be like right in the middle of his beef with Jay-Z, where he's putting out the track Ether, calling him Gay-Z and Cockefeller Records. And of course, Victoria Beckham is working with Rockefeller. Did Victoria Beckham help squash the beef between Nas and Jay-Z? I don't think this is true, but I want to believe so bad. I reached out to Victoria Beckham herself on Instagram to see if she wanted to clear it up. As yet, she's not responded, but I'll let you know in the comments if she ever gets back to me. One of the things I love about bootlegs and unreleased albums like this is that it sort of highlights the path not taken, all of these potential directions an artist could have had. And there's a lot of different directions that Victoria was playing with here. Could she have done more hip-hop stuff? Maybe if Come Together had had more time in the studio, it would have worked out. Could she have been a disco electropop diva in the mold of Kylie Minogue? I think that would have played at the time. I think for me, the biggest missed opportunity, though, is the stripped down, raw, honest breakup album that could have been. If we'd have got a full album like Resentment, that would have changed her image a lot. But as the nice man from the News of the World said earlier, her whole brand image was built off her successful marriage with David Beckham. So from the PR perspective, Simon Fuller was never going to allow her to do this song about how she no longer trusts her husband and feels betrayed. And ultimately, that indecisiveness, that inability to commit to a new persona killed her. She so clearly wanted to be something new, to become an untainted version of herself that wouldn't get hounded by the media, but she just couldn't summon it. And if these bootlegs show anything, it's this process of trying to reinvent yourself and failing. It's a 2 CD reminder that you should just be comfortable in your own skin. When it comes to Damon Dash, when he talks about his time working with Victoria Beckham, he's always very defensive or justifying his actions. She wasn't Mariah Carey, but she did what she had to do. She got the job done in the studio. What she lacked in talent, she made up for in effort. The timing was right, and I did what I had to do. I took Rockaware to another point of awareness. Jesus, dude. I did what I had to do. You're making a pop record. You're not eating your family for sustenance in the post-apocalypse. And people picked up on this at the time too. Here's a BBC article commentating that he's not exactly glowing with praise for Victoria, which is just another terrible pre-release omen for the album. But the thing is, it wasn't just Victoria that he'd run his mouth about. Damon Dash talked shit on a lot of people. He was getting drunk and shit-talking Def Jam. He was calling people culture vultures. And I think Jay-Z was getting sick of him acting like he was the boss when he didn't even make any music. And do you remember the film ventures that I mentioned earlier?
I gotta tell you about this boopity-boop shit playing in the store.
They weren't actually successful financially. According to one source I found, Paid in Full didn't even make back half of its production cost. There's a joke in there somewhere. In 2003, Jay-Z released The Black Album, which he believed at the time would be his last album ever. And it was, once again, an absolute monster, giving the world 99 Problems, a song so massive that even my white British parents know it. Jay-Z didn't need Victoria Beckham or Dame Dash to break the UK market. He didn't need anybody. He could do it all himself. And so, in 2004, in a The Social Network tier move, Jay-Z would negotiate with Rockefeller's parent company, Universal, in secret, and push Damon Dash out of Rockefeller altogether. Since then, Damon Dash has fallen on financial troubles. He sold his remaining shares in Rockaware, and has since been got for tax evasion and backdated child payments. One report I saw stated that his net worth had dropped from 50 million at its peak to just 100,000. And one other bizarre twist in this story, Damon Dash's ex-wife, Rachel Roy, is a credible candidate for being Becky with the good hair that Jay-Z had an affair with, so there's that. Victoria Beckham never released music again as a solo artist. She reunited with the Spice Girls for an appearance at the London 2012 Olympics, but declined to join them for the 2019 World Tour. But did she actually need to? When Simon Fuller signed Victoria back under his management in 2003, he gave a statement saying that his plans for Victoria were a multimedia challenge. Our plans revolve around a mixture of fashion, lifestyle, music, and television properties. And you can't say that they exactly failed at that goal. She formed the wildly successful Victoria Beckham fashion line. She introduced the world to the Karen haircut. And she's become a billionaire. So I think Victoria Beckham's doing just fine. In 2019, Victoria and David bought out Simon Fuller's stake in their company and are once again running things on their own. And as for music, well, recently Mel B has been teasing that Victoria may well rejoin the Spice Girls. So who knows, we may still get some music from her yet. Time will tell. thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing or sharing it to someone who you think might be interested. I make all these videos on my own. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon, which directly contributed to me getting the rare records I showed off. I've been Howard Hands TV, and will continue to be so. Good night.